The benefits of practicing Ashtanga yoga are so many that they're hard to explain. The practice has the power to transform every fiber of your being. More importantly, Ashtanga yoga gives you the tools to live a happy and a peaceful life. This is the promise of the practice. Many years ago, when I first traveled to India to meet my teacher, I asked him about the promise of the practice, the promise of shanti, peace. And he looked me in the eyes and he said to me very clearly that the promise of the practice is simple. If you show up on the mat every day and you work with breath, body, and mind for many years, then shanti is coming, he told me, no problem. So if you're thinking about practicing, even though it may seem simple, getting on the mat and focusing on breath, body, and mind are actually really challenging and really hard. So we work with a tool that's called in Sanskrit tapas. And tapas is the sort of acceptance of those pains which lead to purification, the effort, the sacrifice, and all that we put into the practice, the difficulty that we face when we get on the mat, the hardship that brings about sort of that inner glow after many years of practice. It's important to understand that the practice of Ashtanga yoga is difficult, and it's not meant to be easy. We're meant to find our tapas, our effort, our discipline, our dedication. If it's easy for us, Ashtanga yoga has a solution. There are 6 series in the practice, and they go in increasing order of difficulty, so they actually get harder. There are many demands that the Ashtanga yoga practice makes. First of all, the traditional practice is done 6 days a week at quite an early time, so we want to practice as close to first thing in the morning as possible. Sometimes the practice gets very long and includes meditative aspects, chanting aspects, pranayama aspects, other things besides asana that can begin to add to your daily sadhana or your everyday routine of spiritual practice. So the demand of Ashtanga yoga is already quite intense. Then the asanas themselves are quite intense. There's a rigorous flow that challenges the body physically. The asanas are so difficult, so sometimes they bring up mental confrontation as well. And rather than thinking that something is wrong, try to understand that the Ashtanga yoga method actually is designed exactly in this way, that we're training ourselves to meet challenge and adversity with a peaceful disposition. So when we understand that breath, body, and mind are our 3 anchors of awareness, this helps us focus our attention deeply within, and we can begin to build more spiritual strength, more emotional strength, more psychological strength, and then we carry that off the mat. Life, I don't know if you've noticed, but I certainly have. Life is not always so easy. Yes, there are many days which are wonderful and many things to appreciate in each moment, but sometimes life is difficult. We all face challenges, career challenges, emotional challenges, relationship challenges, societal challenges, generational challenges, all sorts of challenges that present themselves to us, physical challenges. And if we just collapse at the face of any challenge, or if we don't know how to respond with enlightened action, then we can create more suffering. So the practice is kind of like a crucible that can help us remove what are often referred to as impurities, or you can think of them as obstacles in the mind that may prevent us from responding with compassion, kindness, and wisdom. So when we take that lesson off the mat and we apply it into our lives, that's when the magic of Ashtanga yoga really begins to transform us at the deep core level of who we are. Patanjali's Yoga Sutras say that after many years of practice, the yogi's mind is filled with a certain cheerfulness. And then that cheerfulness in Sanskrit is understood as salmanasya, the cheerful disposition of the yogi's mind, able to remain calm and well-grounded despite whatever arises. Sometimes there may be pleasure, sometimes there may be pain. Sometimes even anger arises, sadness arises. We can't expect these things to completely disappear. But the yogi's mind, which is fit for concentration, able to remain on a single point of attention, called the ekatattva state in Sanskrit, this is helping everyone who practices return to that cheerful disposition, that state of salmanasya. So We remember the promise of yoga, and then we also remember that my teacher said many years of practice. So if we're looking at the time frame for our life to change, my teacher used to say that if you practice for a few months, you'll start to feel better. But if you practice for 1 year, continuously, 6 days a week for 1 year, then you'll start to see kind of the light on the horizon of what the bright dawn promises when you continue to practice. 10 years later, your whole life will change. And you'll look back and you'll see, I am so much more peaceful and so much more happier than I ever imagined I could be. So even though Ashtanga Yoga is challenging, the promise of the practice makes it so worth it. If you're thinking about starting the practice, I hope that you find the tools that you need to get on the mat and keep practicing.